everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, when I came home after school and had done, my homework, there was one thing I was longing for more than anything else. To sit down by my PC and play the game of Doom 2. I absolutely love this game. It's one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite game experiences of all time. I just absolutely loved dishing out enormous punishment to these, huge badass demons with my badass weaponry. That chainsaw if you ran out of bullets, the double-barrel shotgun, the rocket launcher, the minigun, and of course the BFG, the big fucking gun. It was fantastic, and we actually convinced ourselves that the graphic in this game was kind of great, and I just love this game so much. And then I found out that they were going to make a movie about Doom, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of the greatest things ever. I hadn't seen any of the trailers, I didn't know anything about the story, I barely know who were in this movie. So I was sitting there in the cinema on opening night, and I was very, very excited. And after about 10 minutes, my excitement had turned into apathy because I had realized something. They're not going to do Doom 2. They're going to do Doom 3. You see, the year prior to the release of this movie, they released the game Doom 3. Doom 3 was a game that was basically the opposite of what this movie was in every way possible. Instead of having, these huge landscapes and these enormous structures that you were, fighting these huge demons in and stuff like that, you were, forced to run through dimly lit corridors and shoot at things you could barely see. It was really boring, and after 4 minutes I said to myself, I'm never going to, play this game ever again. And when I discovered that this movie was more going to resemble Doom 3 rather than Doom 2, I was like, oh no, we're into some heavy problems here. And the problems were just getting started. The more I think about it, the less I think this movie is worth. Every time I rewatch this movie, it just becomes worse and worse and worse because I keep discovering new ways that this movie sucks. But what is this movie about and why does it suck so much? That's what we're gonna see today. This is my review of Doom. Is 2046 and mankind has sort of colonized Mars, because we have this small little colony up there where you can travel to via a portal that allows you to climb up there and go to Mars within seconds. And Carl Urban, The Rock and a bunch of red shirts are going to Mars because there has been a distress signal from it and they're going to investigate it. Carl Urban is a little bit hesitant of going there because his sister, played by Rosamund Pike, is heading up the archaeological digs that they're doing on Mars. I don't quite know what kind of civilizations they expect to find at Mars. Maybe, John Carter will show up or anything like that, but we're not gonna be that lucky, folks. So the team is trying to compensate for the redness of their shirt by having incredibly awesome, names such as, Sarge and Goat and Reaper and stuff like that. And they come to Mars and they discover that this is not going to be a rescue mission or anything like that. This is going to be a mission of survival because there is something evil loose on Mars, and will they make it out of here? And don't know if I care that much. So this movie has a bunch of problems. Let's first address the worst thing: the acting. Now, in a movie like Doom, you don't really expect, fantastic performances or anything like that, but this one is horrible. It is beyond bad. And who is worse in this movie? The Rock. The Rock is normally a kind of safe hand to have because he's always this charming, he's always, this kind of fun dude. But here, every single line he has, he botches. Every single piece of dialogue he has is horrendously delivered. I don't know how they did it, but somehow he's both overacting and under-delivering at the same time. I didn't know you could quite do that. It is so bad, it almost smells like sabotage. He's trying to sabotage his own movie so nobody will see it or anything like that. I don't know, but it is horrible to watch. It might be the worst performance I have seen by an actor in the year of 2005. It is so fucking horrible. The rest of the team aren't that much better. The only one who gets away kind of almost scot-free is Karl Urban, because he's Karl Urban and he's almost automatically at least passable in any movie that he, appears in. Rosamund Pike is by far the best actress in the entire movie. And it feels like she's too good for this movie, and I always get the same feeling with Karl Urban. So let's talk about the other problem in this movie. This is an action horror movie, and that could maybe have worked, maybe, if they could have had, good actors and good characters that you would have cared about. But you do not have that in this movie. You have these extremely subpar performances by these characters that you don't care about ever the slightest. And what happens in this movie? Barely anything, because instead of, them fighting badass demons, they get to fight lame ass zombies, and they get to fight them in the most underwhelming way possible. It is a lot of sneaking around in tight corridors that are dimly lit, and then all of a sudden stuff is happening and you don't see what's happened to anybody, because it is so rapidly edited that you have no idea who did what to who, why or how. And then it goes on and on and on. And then all of a sudden I did discover this while rewatching this movie, that there's this sequences in this movie where they play this new metal bullshit, which I hate, and that indicates that we're about to see something cool, and we think, yeah, we're gonna see something cool. And then our heroes point their weapons at things and go to investigate, and after 20-25 seconds it just stops because it was a fake out. They do it again and again and again and again. They're trying to compensate for the fact that absolutely nothing is happening in this movie, and the fact is that we believe that something is happening with all of these fake out sequences, maybe because they didn't have the money enough, or maybe because they just wanted to prepare us for the big horror that is about to come. But this movie isn't scary at all. This movie felt like a bad combination of the first Resident Evil movie and a really, really terrible Alien copy. And once you've discovered that this is the only thing you're going to get, then you're really going to start realizing how long this movie feels, because nothing happens. And as I said, even when stuff do happen, you have no idea what's going on, and the special effects are horrendously dated. Also interesting in this movie apparently cost $60 million. I have no idea how they sank $60 million into this project. The Rock wasn't that high of a paid actor at this point, and where did the money go? Where's the money, Lebowski? Is a valid question in this movie. This is a movie that should have been big time but felt small time, and just when you're thinking that, well, this couldn't get any duller or any more dumb, then they do the POV thing. The POV thing is basically one character in this movie gets injected with a kind of a serum that turns him into a superhuman kind of a creature, and from there we get to see everything from his point of view. And the first 15 seconds of this, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome! After 30 seconds I said, this is kind of good, but we should probably stop by now. After 45 seconds I got motion sick, and after 1 minute I was like, I will do anything just as long as this movie ends, and especially that this POV thing ends, because it is absolutely dreadful. It is absolutely horrible. Please make it stop. They kind of saved this movie a little bit by having, one of the characters turn to the dark side. I like that because I didn't see it coming. Now, normally I don't see anything come in any movie, so it shouldn't be a surprise that I found that thing surprising, but it was at least something that gave the movie an extra villain, which it sorely needed, because what it had was very, very underwhelming. Doom is a slow-moving, incredibly bad action horror movie, two genres that is very rarely, married in a successful way. Usually when they try to do that, it ends in a messy divorce because they can't agree on what master they want to serve. Do they want to be a high-octane action movie, or do they want to be a bone-chilling, scary monster fest? They tried to kind of do both and failed spectacularly at both, because they didn't have enough good materials to make the horror thing work, and because they wanted more to do a horror movie than an action movie, all the action sequences look like shit. So what we are left with is a boring movie that feels very long. The third act was a little bit better and at least featured a couple of things that I thought worked just a little bit, and at least this movie wasn't PG-13, because my God, would that have been underwhelming. So should you see this movie? Absolutely not. This is one of the worst action horror movies I've ever seen. It's not quite as bad as some of the worst video game movies that has ever been made. I've actually made a pretty damn excellent list about that way back that you can watch, and you can see that movie being in the conversation. If I would have redone the list by now, I think it would have been actually in my top 10. If it wasn't in the top 10 already, I cannot quite remember exactly where it was located on that list, but it has actually become even worse as I've seen it more and more times, and I've discovered more and more things I don't like about it, especially when it comes to the horrible acting. And this is just a movie that feels like it refuses to die, and the movie just goes on and on and on. And there are a few things in this movie that stands out that is really horrible, but there are also some smaller minor details that made this movie feel kind of okay. Maybe I'm being fooled a little bit by that they teases things that they could have done but didn't do. Maybe that's why this movie will get a slightly higher rating than I would probably, bestow this movie otherwise, because this movie is quite horrible. Doom is an unvisionary movie. It has horrible, severely dated effects. It has terrible performances, an awful soundtrack, and the worst offense a movie can probably make, being extremely boring. I give Doom 18 points. The only thing that prevents this movie from absolutely dumpster fire levels of bad, it is the fact that the third act, while not being good, is at least more passable than what led up to it. So we at least have that. Doom is a horrendously boring, extremely tedious movie that doesn't know what it wants to be, that looks unimpressive and has absolutely nothing new to say. So I'll see you next time for so-and-so reviewing, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.